Hello and welcome to Churchill Downs. Jody, Demling, Jennie Rees, Courier-Journal from the Courier-Journal.com. We're here, well, you can see, right by the Twin Spires. Jennie, we're 9 days away from Kentucky Derby 137. We want to get the folks kind of caught up and get started today, and we'll answer a few questions. It wasn't raining today, which is a good start.
It was amazing when the news of the day is, what is that in the sky? Oh, blue. We haven't seen that in quite a while. Yes, and then because of it, we got to see Uncle Mo train. The photographers were very happy. He came out at 8:30 and had a very nice looking gallop. Todd Pletcher had been sending him out early, but he said the track was what they call sealed because it still had the water in it, and that they seal it, they pack it down to keep water from penetrating the surface. But after the mid-morning renovation break, they used the harrows with the tractors, and so he sent them out then, and we all got to get a good look at them.
We'll get to a lot of things here, and we will answer your questions. You can submit questions right now at Courier-Journal.com, and we will answer them. For the time that we're going to take here today, on this show. But Jennie, let's start off with it is such a muddled picture. I mean, I guess it's fitting. It's been muddy out here. It's been muddy out here for 2 weeks, and it's a really muddy picture as far as when you look at the Derby. And then by my count, still 24 or 25 horses that want to get in the race. Obviously, only the first 20 on the graded earnings list will get in, but at least four or five others that have a chance if somebody would happen to come.
I was talking today to some of the people with Sway Away, and they already have twice the appeal in the Sunland Derby winner in, but they really want to get Sway Away, and he was fourth in the Arkansas Derby, and he's came very close to the Factor. In the San Vicente, finished second over a speed favoring track, and it's the only time the Factor when he's won hasn't won, with some ease. They really want to get him in that race, and he's pretty far down on your list. Sway Away.
He's 25th on my
He's 25th, yeah.
That's counting Derby Kitten, which I don't think would.
Of all people, we think that Ken Ramsey, who is the owner breeder of Derby Kitten, he names his horses Derby Obsession, Derby Kitten, first Saturday in May. That you would think if he could get Derby Kitten in, who was the Lexington winner, he would, but actually right after he won the Lexington over Keeneland's Poly Track, Ken Ramsey, we asked, well, are you maybe Preakness Kitten, and he seems to, I think the horse is better on turf or on synthetic, and he wants to find a Derby with his name, but the key would be, if he could actually get in the Kentucky Derby, would he say no to the race, which is the world's hardest race to say no to?
And it really is. And a lot of, but again, as we said, there are 20 right now, and then there are 4 or 5 more that want to get in as far as on the graded earnings list. And really, I mean, when you talk to people on the backside, everybody has a different opinion this year, which it just doesn't seem like, and I think because Dialed In, who is probably going to be the likely morning line favorite, because he's not here, he hasn't been here, I think people are kind of looking for reasons to not pick the horse that everybody wants to be the favorite.
Right, and he worked this morning, and I talked to Nick Zito on the phone. He worked a half mile at Palm Meadows in Boynton Beach, Florida. They tamed him in 48 and 2/5.
They should have sent one of us down to cover
They should have, like Mike Welch with the Daily Racing Form went down there.
One of us to cover
yes, and although the weather actually is being nice here for a change, but it's been very nice down there. They've avoided a lot of off weather. But it'll be the first time that Nick Zito has had a horse in the Derby who did not have a workout at Churchill before the Kentucky Derby. However, this horse did train here at Churchill last fall. In fact, he broke his maiden here in his racing debut. I think it was November 12th.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look and he's breaking tradition as far as Nick Zito. I mean, usually 2 or 3 weeks out, there's barricades around the barn. There's police tape up, and he's in Derby mode. And you go back there, and the barn's there, and he's got a string of horses here.
And no Nick. Everything but Nick.
Everything but Nick and Dialed In.
So I think some people make something of that. I'll be interested to see what Mike Welch writes about it. He's here, except for when we went down to Florida, writing about these horses, watching them train, no matter how dark and early it is, and he writes up his analysis in the Daily Racing Form. And he's also going to be one of our expert analysts that will be giving their Derby picks and writing about who they like and why and who's their throw-out horse in the May 7th Kentucky Derby preview in the Courier-Journal and at Courier-Journal.com.
Yes, and dialed in. It will likely be the morning line favorite. It looks like he worked this morning. It looks like he'd probably come in Sunday or Monday. He's supposed
to get in Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, he's coming in Saturday, and I guess we'll see him on the track on Sunday. And Nick has, in fact, he has already sent his car up here, and his car had a stopwatch in it this morning. So this morning for the race, he told me all he had was this plastic stopwatch that I guess he wasn't really sure of. So he was relying on Mike Welsh's timing. But they said the horse won the last 8th in 11-2, and that's a very tiring, heavy track because it is a training track. And so he was really happy because 48-2. If it was a Baffert work, you wouldn't be that impressed, at a track like this. But that's probably a pretty fast track at Palm Meadows. There's not that many horses down there right now.
And then the horse, like Jennie said earlier, that we all got to see finally today. Normally it's 5:45 or 6:02 that Uncle Mo has been heading out to the track here at Churchill Downs because of and I will say a lot of it probably has been because of the rain, because that has been some of the times when it's in between downpours, and it's been really bad, later in the morning as far as, this week. So Todd Pletcher, Uncle Mo, the most talked about horse probably in this field, the 2-year-old champion that won the Breeders' Cup, juvenile here on this racetrack at Churchill Downs, was a disappointing effort in the Wood Memorial, and he looked great today. He really looked kind of like the Uncle Mo that we all thought we would see, 2 months ago.
Right, he did look good. And, his race in the Wood Memorial where he got beat, I think, 1.25 lengths, any other horse, they say that's a good race. He'll really advance forward off of it. It's his 3rd race off the layoff will be the Kentucky Derby. But he's Uncle Mo. He has set a standard that's different for most horses, and that's where people say, is he not the same horse this year as he was last year? And I think the fact that they went on and named Ramon Dominguez on his stablemate, Stay Thirsty, is another sign to me that Uncle Mo will run in the Derby. Of course, anything can happen, but that, John Velasquez will be on him. I think if there was a question about him running, they might have kept open the Stay Thirsty mount a little longer, although Ramon Dominguez has ridden Stay Thirsty before. But what we feel like this time of the year is we feel like the old criminologists that used to study all the little signs that, in the Soviet Union and try to read everything into it. And that's what we do this year with just the slightest, an inflection of a word or body language of the trainer. And I'm sure you can overanalyze it too, but it is fun to see for what is the world's most difficult race to handicap. Can you be the one that comes up with the clue that deciphers the right horse and gets you whatever kind of payoff?
I've always said they need to do a CSI on the backside. That'd be like one of those shows where they come and they look for the clues on the exactly what it is.
What
we're doing. And I think the thing with Uncle Mo is, he had a bad effort in the Wood, but if you really take the excuse that he was sick in that race, and you draw a line through that race because he did have some sort of problem,
whatever it is,
then
inflammation.
Then you're sitting there going, okay,
right. Well, just 2 thoughts on that. First, that did he get? Has he been able to get enough out of what he needs to do to win the Kentucky Derby with 2 races, one against that he won very easily. The Wood Memorial is the first time he ever had horses around him after about the 3/16 pole. Usually he just ignited away from them. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is he did back off his appetite after the Wood Memorial. That was a month ago. So that would kind of worry me. But again, the signs, as we're looking the CSI, Todd Pletcher, when he worked the other morning, and he worked in the dark, and I just had a feeling. So actually, I can't do this every day, but I was there at 5:45. And not that I could see much, but Todd was in this great mood and even said after the work, when he had a set of horses getting ready to go to the track, you want to talk now or do you want to talk? Yeah, sure. And I thought that was a real good sign, because usually if he's got horses training, he's not stopping to talk. But the other thing I was going to say, and I got to credit Drew Diener on the Early Bird 790 AM for this theory last year, that he had bet Super Saver was his horse because he thought, who's the horse that you'd be most kicking yourself if he won the Derby and you didn't bet him, and he'll Super Saver. And after the fact, when I heard him talk about this. That made so much sense.
Right.
So I asked him, okay, who's your horse this year? And it is obvious. It's Uncle Mo.
Right.
Who would be the horse that if he wins, you would...
No, it really is. And, I think the one question now with Uncle Mo, now that everything looks, after this morning, after watching him train this morning, in my mind, he's fine. He's ready to go as far as physically. Now, the question is, my mind, when they come around that turn right there, it's a long way from that turn to this finish line.
It is the longest 8th mile in racing. It's more than just an extra 8th mile from their mile and 8th preps to the Mile and a Quarter, the Kentucky Derby. I know they say it's just it's an 8th mile, but it is the longest 8th mile in racing.
I mean, it is a long way. And now I think the question turns, and I think it will in coming days as he continues, especially if they keep putting him out at 8:30, which I think Todd might end up
doing. Yeah, he was telling us this morning he's trying to get him in that rotation.
To get him in that rotation, if he keeps training well, then I think all the questions turn back to Uncle Mo, to distance.
Can he go a mile and a quarter, which is what the question was right after he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile on this track.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take a few questions. I'm going to save the couple pick questions for later. John wanted to know, do you have a long shot? And it's kind of early.
Yes, but I do have a long shot. And it's this horse is going to be 60-1, and it's Decisive Moment. He's looked very good training here. A friend of mine that's a trainer who I really respect, he certainly caught his eye, and he said, the question is he just good enough? But, he's a kind of horse that could certainly be in your gimmicks, especially if you're playing the Superfecta, the Super High Five, the Tries. And, he finished second in the Spiral in his last start. The race before, he was 5th in the Risen Star, which Mucho Macho Man won. And Juan Arias was saying that he'd wrenched an ankle or something in that race. So, they came home a little slow in the Spiral, so I don't know that I would like him for a horse to win. But if he did, again, he just looks like a horse who's thriving, and he's going to be a price. And
Juan Arias would be the second Juan Arias to win the Kentucky Derby.
It'd be a great trivia that Juan Arias having, of course, that Canonero II was the first Juan Arias, and they're not related. They're from different countries, in fact. But that would be fun. That would
totally be fun. I kind of look at him as a long shot. I don't know that this horse is going to end up being a long shot. Because I think as he keeps training and everybody keeps seeing how well he's doing on the track, I think Shackelford is going to get a lot of play.
Yes, I agree.
I think Shackelford will get a lot of play. Dale Romans at some point is going to sneak up and win a Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of speed, and I kind of question how he was really slowing down the last 8th mile of the Florida Derby, but. As Dale says, it wasn't just that the way he won the Florida Derby, where lost the Florida Derby by a head to the Derby favorite Dialed In, that made Dale Romans think that this horse should be in the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
It was his work last Saturday in the slop here. It was very impressive. He's looked very good galloping. Yeah, I think that horse is going to take a lot of action. Another horse that is you would think would be a big price, but he's going to be the buzz horse.
Well, that was the next question. Mac wanted to know who is the buzz horse.
Nero, and that's too bad for Nero, because those horses never win the Derby. They always look like they're going to, and it seems like they never do. Nero, of course, was beaten a neck in both the Louisiana Derby and the Arkansas Derby, and he seems like a horse that just give him that extra 8th mile, and that's what they're waiting for.
He seems like a horse that, to me, reminds me of Bull in the Heather, Sarlin, Handyman High. I mean, there's so many horses in the
Jumron,
exactly. There's so many horses in the last 15 years or so that are just buzz. And as the median attention, as the people grow next week, he will become the buzz.
Much to the chagrin of Steve Asmussen, saying, I don't want anybody on his bandwagon. This horse has enough weight to carry without you guys. And I understand why, because like I said, the buzz horses.
And now everybody's on the bandwagon. And like I said, those horses are usually ones that you just toss over your shoulder.
Could Master of Hounds, if he comes in from Ireland, be a buzz horse?
No, I think he could if he comes in, because that horse, if they bring him from Ireland, he's going to look the part. Those horses always stand out as far as looks, and I think he'll probably kind of catch people's eye, and I think that starts a little bit of the buzz, and I just think he's got a shot to to kind of, I don't know.
I can't like him at all.
I can't. I think he's got a shot to be the buzz horse. No, I don't like him at all. Yeah, no,
right. John Ashe, I know, gives him some shots, especially if they'd put Calvin Burrell on him. But I just, I'm looking at his form. He was 6th in the Breeders' Cup Turf here, Juvenile Turf.
I was saying he's got a race at the track. It's just on the turf.
He does, right. And before, he was 3rd in a Group 1 over there before the Breeders' Cup. And then he did run, well in the UAE Derby, which is a mile 3/16. But that was on synthetic. This will be his first real dirt race, and that's going to be a factor, of course, with some of these horses.
And I do have to believe that before the Breeders' Cup, he was probably here for a week or so. So at least he's been on the dirt track. He's trained. That might be. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you just don't know about this horse. I mean, like you said, he's never run on the dirt.
No, and. We're still waiting for the first Derby winner who the Derby was their first race on true dirt, which is a factor that's going to come into play with some of these other horses. Animal Kingdom, right? He has
Correct. In fact, Animal Kingdom is supposed to ship today. Grand Motion, he's supposed to ship Animal Kingdom here today, and then we'll go to the track tomorrow and work. I think he'll work either Saturday or Sunday of this week, which we'll have 9. I think we'll have 9 or 10 works on Saturday and Sunday. So
get tight on.
It's going to be a busy time out here, and those are really they really are telling in the final work, because the final work are a lot of times, as we were talking today with Pletcher, a lot of times in that final work you see a horse that's like, wow, that horse is really doing well here over this track. Or there's a few times that you can throw them out. There's some that don't mean as much.
They come back blowing. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, if they come back blowing, that's not a good sign at all. Dawn wants to know about Brilliant Speed, but her question cut off, so I don't know exactly what Dawn wants to know. But Brilliant Speed is the winner of the Bluegrass.
It was run like a grass race. Brilliant Speed, I think, is going to be a top grass horse. No horse came home faster in their final prep than Brilliant Speed, who came home the last 3/8 in 34 and change, and that's something I really look at. However, that race was so run like a grass race that I'm just not sure that he's going to transfer that form.
Right. Yeah, and when you really look at recent years, I guess since the Poly Track, at Keeneland, what's besides Street Sense? I mean, anything?
Patio Prado was
Patio Prado.
3rd last year, and Pioneer the Nile, who was making his first start on true dirt, was 2nd. But it was a sloppy track too the last 2 years, and that might come into play. So maybe if it's a sloppy track, but you look at the Bluegrass, they went so slow, 50-1, 114-3, and this horse still comes from last. It was run. I think he's a really nice horse. Would it completely shock me? No. His sire, Dynaform, was already sired a Derby winner in Barbaro. But I just think it's a wide open year. I'm going to be looking elsewhere.
Jenny, from TLH, if Nero was not the buzz horse, how would you feel about him based on things you evaluate?
He came home fast enough again the last 3/8.
I have to admit, he's a horse that I probably would like, and I'm probably going to throw in.
Sure, I think you've got to use him in the gimmicks, even though the buzz horses usually don't even hit the board.
Right.
But I think he's definitely a horse that, you've got to play. It's funny because when he was entered in the Louisiana Derby, and he was 36-1 in that race, I thought, boy, this sure smacks of an owner wanting to do this. And I went and talked to Steve Asmussen, his trainer, and absolutely not. This was something the trainer really wanted to do. He follows the Ragozin sheets quite a bit. He said that if you look at Mucho Macho Man, who was the big favorite for the Louisiana Derby after winning the Risen Star, he said he was a 7 on the Ragozin sheets. He said his horse and another horse he had in the Louisiana Derby, a maiden, were 11s. He said that's not that big a drop if we move forward. And he certainly looked very smart when this horse gets beat a neck at 36-1. I think then they were very, very thrilled with that race. They run him back in the Arkansas Derby, and I think that they thought he ran well, but I think they were disappointed they didn't win that race. But he certainly was coming on. He was 4.5 lengths back. I mean, from that standpoint, he's a horse who has his last 3 races really has greatly improved each race. He's bred for the 1.25 mile, being by Mineshaft and out of a Fleet mare. So yeah, if people wouldn't talk about him, he is a horse that you would like.
All right, Jim wants to know why not just go bet on Calvin Burrell?
Good point, and a lot of people will. and twice the appeal is not going to be the price that he should be. He will be bet way down. They'll think if Mind That Bird can win coming out of the Sunland Derby, and he didn't even win the Sunland Derby. This horse won the Sunland Derby, and I saw him galloping this morning, and he's a nice-looking horse. But they've managed him very carefully. This horse broke his maiden, I think, for claiming price.
Yeah.
He ran in those starter races that they write for horses who've been in claiming races.
Also.
He's been so he barely gets it on the old 2-year-old Jinx. Which is going to be sort of segueing. Yes, bet on Calvin. I think you got to use him in the gimmicks.
Because wouldn't it
feel stupid if he did something big at a huge price and he didn't?
Not only has he won 3 of the last 4, but that 4th year he
was third. He was third, right?
And I think you have to look at him and you have to bet on Calvin. When you look at the field, the top 20 horses. Really, Animal Kingdom is the only horse, unless something happens between now and Wednesday when entries are taken, which I think the draw is at 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, and I'm sure it's going to be streamed live at Courier-Journal.com. But you can really, Animal Kingdom is the only possible maybe that. Graham Motion has said he wants to see how he trains on the dirt. I mean, I think they're definitely going to go to the Derby, but I guess if he comes over here, doesn't like it at all, then they could pull him out, which would then put Anthony's Cross in, who's not here. Owen Hardy still has him in California.
Yeah, there's a Plain Tuesday that he's supposed to be on. A real interesting horse for me is this horse went from being one of the horses that was very talked about, one of the top 2 for the Derby, to getting no talk at all. And he also has not arrived here yet. He'll be on the same plane that Brings and Dialed In, and that's Sold At. The Fountain of Youth winner that then was 5th, beaten 10.5 lengths in the Florida Derby, and now nobody's talking about him. To me, he had the look of a turf horse that if he got a comfortable lead, like he did in the Florida Derby, and like he did in an allowance race, a tough allowance race, that he won by 10 3/4 lengths in the slop at Gulfstream. But he had a comfortable lead that day. Mm-hmm. And I was asking Karen McLaughlin about that. I said, is that, because otherwise it looks like he's really a grass horse, because he has rated nicely off the lead in his grass races, and he said, well, the kickback was different, the Florida Derby, than what he thinks it'll be at Churchill Downs. On Florida Derby Day, said it was very hot and humid. It was sort of a deep track, and he thinks it will be different. The other thing is, I think Sold At, if it's an off track, if it's a track like it's been the last couple of years, I think he's definitely live, but I think the jury's still out. Does this horse have to have the lead or not?
And he, he beat Master Hound in the juvenile. He was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
Well, that's why I'm thinking, if you like Master Hounds, there's horses that I like better than Master of Hounds.
Exactly.
But again, would he, if either Master of Hounds or certainly if Sold At, if they popped up and won the Derby, would you be surprised? I think after Mind That Bird, we take a different view at all these horses. We try to find a reason why maybe that horse can win.
Bob wants to know about the Arkansas Derby winner, Arch.
Well, Claiborne Farm has to love him because they stand Arch. And like I said, if you missed it the first syllable of his name, who his stallion was, you get a second and third time to hear it. But this will be one of the most popular horses on the backside if this horse wins, with John Court living in Shelby County and Jinx Fires, his father-in-law. He's been at Churchill Downs, come to Churchill Downs for 50 years. He's 70. And he's watched a lot of Derby horses go into the track, and to finally have his own that's ridden by his son-in-law, and that Jinx's daughter Candace is the pony person that'll be taking him, to the gate, and it's a very cool story.
Yeah, it really is, and it's one of those when you look the past 10 years or so, and you look back at the Derby winners, and you look at those names as we were coming up the press box. I kind of glanced over, and you look at those names, and you don't necessarily always think of the horse. Sometimes you think of the story. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you think of the Derby gods, and there are certain things that you think the Derby gods would be.
Well, he's definitely the Derby gods angle. I would say with Jinx. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's one of those Derby god angles. As is our next. The next one I was going to ask you about is Kathy Ridfell. I mean, you talk about Derby gods.
Oh, right. Her too. Those are
she's heart transplant recipient, and
at age 38, he's 41 now.
Macho Man, I think, has a big time chance to win this race.
I think he does too, and I think Arch does too. Just getting back a little bit to him, he certainly, he finished well in the Arkansas Derby, and he's bred to go a mile and a quarter. But speaking of sort of bucking trends, Mucho Macho Man is a June 15th foal.
He's a baby.
And I doubt if even a horse that young biologically has ever even run in the Kentucky Derby, let alone won. I can't imagine that a June foal has won it before, but he doesn't look like one. He's huge. He might be the tallest horse.
He really does. And I spent a lot of time around the barn this morning, and he's really calm and really laid back. And for a younger, I thought, okay, he's a baby. He's probably going to kind of be playful and all that.
Yeah.
But he's just real relaxed, kind of takes it all in. And when he walks out to train every morning on the track, he kind of looks around and just stands there for a couple minutes. And he really has a great demeanor. The horse has a great demeanor as far as not letting anything kind of ruffle his feathers.
Yeah. That's funny. The morning of the Louisiana Derby, I was talking to Kathy, and she was saying how, I just hate making excuses. So they run the race, the horse finishes third, gets beat a total of 3/4 of a length. And then right after the race, an assistant starter came up and he said, that horse lost a shoe. He said, I don't know which one, but he was there working the gate and he saw the shoe. And it turns out that Mucho Macho Man had lost a front shoe. And it kind of makes sense because Kathy was talking about watching him run, and he didn't seem as comfortable as he had. He wasn't holding his head like quite the same. And so that's pretty big to go 1.125 miles with losing a front shoe. So I think he had a legitimate excuse. As much as she says she hates to make excuses, she said, it is what it is. Having said that, he still came home pretty fast. The top 3 in the Louisiana Derby all did. So I think, like you said, I think he's got a big chance. And his sire, Macho Uno, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile here at Churchill Downs.
On this track. All right. Don wants to know about Wood Memorial winner Toby's Corner, and
big shot.
A big chance. You think so?
I think so, because if you look at the final 3/8 and 1/8 mile times of these horses, I think he is the fastest final 3/8 on true dirt in this race. And I think he's, the blinkers seem to make a big difference. And Eddie Castro, he won a Breeders' Cup race here at Churchill Downs. He's a rider that a lot of people, I think, just for casual fans aren't so familiar with, but he's a good rider.
Grand Motion has 2, Animal Kingdom and Toby's Corner in this race. He's one of those guys. He's going to keep Toby a little bit away from everying, and he's in Maryland right now. He's going to keep him there.
We won't see him work here.
Tuesday or Wednesday, we won't see him work here. But I think he's got a big chance. In talking to Graham the day before the Wood Memorial, when he upset Uncle Mo, he was kind of like, we're in this for second, we're in this for second, we're in this for second. And then, that day in the paddock, you could kind of tell that Graham, he kind of, I don't know that he knew he was going to beat Uncle Mo, but he knew that horse was sitting on a big race.
Yeah. And now afterwards, and I agree with Graham on this. He says there's been all this talk about Uncle Mo, not winning, but maybe some credit needs to go to the horse who did win.
Right.
Maybe, he just ran that big Toby's Corner.
Right, and I think, it was an impressive performance, all around, and Grand Motion has done a great job. Diane Cotter would be a great story too. It's kind of a mom and pop operation, that they have, in Florida, and they had a lot of opportunities to sell.
Turned down a lot of money for this. That's right.
They turned down a lot of money.
And isn't Toby's Corner named? Oh, it's named for a horse.
It's named for the granddaughter's horse, but they also bred Bellamy Road, who won the Wood Memorial by 17 lengths.
Derby favorite.
Right.
And
was
maybe 8th.
I would say 8th or 9th.
5th or something.
Something like that. So, a couple more questions, then we're going to get out of here. We're going to do this again next week. Not sure on the day yet. We'll let you know on Thursday. On Thursday of Derby week, we'll do the same thing, and I think maybe Eric Crawford will join us, and so we'll have a trio of folks talking. But one of the now I lost the question. I want to know about Mike Rapoli and what he would do for racing if Uncle Mo or State Thirsty, said State Thirsty also in the race, would happen to win the race. He's the young, energetic businessman who built vitamin water.
Yeah, convince people that you should pay premium for bottled water.
Exactly.
So he is kind of a marketing genius. I don't know what old Mike Rapoli would do for horse racing, but for the city of Louisville, he'd do great things, because there would be one party going on, and he would be spending a lot of money. It was funny, I asked Todd Pletcher the other day, I said, all this work that that you did on Uncle Mo after his loss to try to like CSA and trying to find out what went wrong. You know, what was it there? I thought there had to be some sort of explanation. I said, I just can't imagine what that cost. He says, well, I don't know, but I can tell you this, not as much as Mike Rapoli's the dinner tab after he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Churchill. He said, I saw that one. He said, and it was huge. But no, Mike he'd fill all of our notebooks and tape recorders up for sure, and he really is the kind of breath of fresh air that I think that racing ought to, you know, listen to him a little bit more, because he's not only a horse owner, he owns 82 horses, but he started out as a horse player too. So he understands the concerns of the horse players.
Patty wants to know your picks for the Oaks and Derby, and we are, and let me preface this by saying both of us, yes, we can change our mind. Right. We probably both will.
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. And with the Kentucky Oaks, I don't really have a strong opinion, but I saw Andrew McKeever's filly that won, Daisy Divine, that won the Fairgrounds Oaks, and boy, she has really dappled out, and she ran big in that race, and it wouldn't surprise me to see her. Our Heat Lightning's been very impressive, both in training and her last couple of races.
In the Oaks, I really, really like Joyful Victory at this point.
She was impressive.
Larry Jones, she looks very impressive, and again, we're talking great stories, and you know, after what he's been through, you know, losing 8 bellows right after the Derby, then retiring for a year and being out with the health issues and all that, you know, a great story. So I think the Oaks is going to be, it looks right now, I think there's still 17 or 18 that want to get in the Oaks. They cut that to 14 on traded earnings.
Yes, and it's going to be a great, there's the wager, the Oaks Derby double. That's going to be a great bet with full fields and both wide open, you know, betting races. I mean, the Oaks will probably have because it is 14 horses and not 20, the favorite will be a shorter price there, but still great betting race. As far as my Derby picks, I'm trying to remember what they were this week, but I have dialed in on top, but boy, you know, I could, I don't have to stay there. I think in Toby's Corner and Arch are my top 3.
See, I've had a top 3 for the last 6 or 8 weeks, and I've never really had a 1, but I've never changed the top 3, and it's still the top 3 right now, which is dialed in. Uncle Mo, and then Mucho Macho Man. It's kind of like I've got those 3, and I don't know which way to go yet, and I think it's going to take. I really want to see Uncle Mo's last work. I know the distance questions and all that kind of stuff, but as we pointed out earlier, I would hate to be standing here on Derby night and Uncle Mo
couldn't
roll
come
by
up
that
with
field.
the horse that had been the unbeaten, that had won by 5 lengths here in the. But you know, I got about 7 horses that I want to put in the top 4, 3 or 4. That's my problem right now.
And it really is, and you got to find somebody. You know, I mean, in a field like this, in a crazy year,
you got to find the price horse.
Right, but then again, maybe it's not as muddled. You know, we talked about it earlier. It's a muddled picture. Everybody thinks maybe it's not as muddled as we think it is.
Well, between now and next week, I'm going to talk to my moles that I really respect that watch these horses train, and I'm going to see who they like.
And you know what? Sometimes moles know best, especially on the backside.
One of my favorite moles came up with Real Quiet when he won, because just loved the way that he was training and working at Churchill Downs.
See what you have to look forward to next week.
Courier-Journal.
Moles. Exactly. You can go Jennie's blog, the racing blog. We'll be filling that up all weekend. There's a lot of work this week. So check those out at Courier-Journal.com, and we will be back. I'll have horse videos starting this weekend also for each of the 20 Derby horses and a couple of the favorites in the Oaks field, a little video clip of each of the horse. And then on Thursday, we'll be back somewhere out here at Churchill Downs doing a live chat with Jennie Rees, Jody Demling, and I think Eric Crawford will join us. So all your Derby 137 needs as far as racing and all Derby Festival and everything else goes, go to Courier-Journal.com.